the flying champion of Mondstadt, the #1 outrider for the Knights of Favonius, and the weakest character known in Genshin Impact. Amber is a very polarizing character among the Genshin Impact community, as while she isn't a very good character in-game, she is a greatly written character in the world of Genshin Impact. This is a character study on the #1 outrider and flying champion of Mondstadt, known as Amber Harris.
Get ready for the gliding champion of Mondstadt!
Now, Amber is one of those characters that when you play a video game, you ask yourself, should I sacrifice my enjoyment of the game in order to use a character that is not very good? Now, Amber is considered one of the worst characters in the game by far due to her terrible design and weird gameplay. This is in no part due to the fact that she is the first companion you get in the game, and since at its heart, Genshin Impact is a gacha game, they were never going to make her good as it would not give an incentive to try to roll for better characters. The game wants you to spend money in order to get better characters. This practice, however, leaves characters like Amber and earlier ones like Kaya and Lisa completely shafted since because they are free, they have to be designed to be bad. This by no means doesn't mean you can't use her, it just means that she will be a very hard character to use late game and will be overshadowed by the many other characters that you have at your disposal. Now what makes her such a bad character has lots to do with her kit. Since I don't want this video to revolve around her in-game character, I will keep it brief. The combination of her low damage and all-around stats plus garbage mechanics of the Baron Bunny, which has a small explosion range and sometimes straight up doesn't attract enemy AI, and her elemental burst that has a puny range which makes it really easy for enemies to walk out of it, make her playstyle really underwhelming to many players. There are many people who go into great detail explaining why Amber is a terribly designed character. This video, however, will focus on analyzing her as a person in the world of Genshin Impact as well as her writing as a character. Without further ado, let's get started. Amber is a very outspoken and optimistic girl. She is the leader and only member of the Outriders division in the Knights of Favonius, the governing body of Mondstadt. Her character design is clearly inspired from steampunk, with her goggles and gloves and abundance of belts and buckles. She could easily fit into that genre of fiction, but the most obvious visual motif in her design is that of a bunny. Her constellation looks like a bunny, her headband resembles bunny ears, she looks like a bunny. One of her special attacks is summoning a creature that she has created named Baron Bunny, a doll-like bunny that walks around drawing enemy aggression and explodes. Her weapon of choice is a bow and arrow, and her favorite food is coffee specifically made from Jean, although it is heavily implied that sticky honey roast is her actual favorite, while wolf juice is her least favorite food. Now for anyone who doesn't know, Genshin Impact has a manga that is pretty good, I must say for myself. In the manga, the main character, for now, is Amber Harris, and it gives us great insight to her character and who she is as a person. The manga in general has a darker tone compared to the game, and is a great read, I highly recommend it. Back to Amber. When she was a little kid, she was often mischievous. She played pranks on many of the Knights of Favonius, and was a general nuisance. She enjoyed doing her little shenanigans, especially to her grandfather. Amber's grandfather was the leader and founder of the Knights of Favonius Outriders division. He was once the leader of a mercenary group tasked with the job of protecting merchants against the land of Teyvat. On one night, a particularly nasty monster attack left him the sole survivor of a merchant group. He was saved by a doctor from the Knights of Favonius, and ashamed of going back, he decided to serve them in order to repay his debt. During his service, he single-handedly crafted the Outriders division and trained them in the arts of gliding and exploring. During the day, Amber would admire them from afar, and at night she would sneak out to practice what they had been doing in the day. She was determined to impress the grandfather who she looked up to so much. Her grandfather indeed had a great influence on Amber, as she finally found something that she was good for. This was all until her grandfather mysteriously disappeared one day and left without a trace. Devastated, Amber decided to join the Outriders in order to hopefully find closure to the disappearance of her grandfather. She worked hard and wanted others to see her as reliable. The seniors of the Knights of Favonius, who were to look after her, noticed this oncoming vigor from her and were delighted to see the mischievous little girl they remember growing up to be a guardian they could rely on. This, however, never led Amber to the answers that she wanted about her grandfather. Since her grandfather was basically the backbone of the Outriders division, it quickly fell apart without his lead. Members began to slack off, more and more were deciding to quit, and soon enough, Amber was the only remaining member left. Her grandfather ended up leaving nothing to her but his words of wisdom, which Amber uses to motivate her to always give 110%. His sudden passing left Amber with the assurance that she would have to walk her own path from now on, and that she would forge it herself. The words that she lived by from now on would be, "What you lack was not the wind, but the courage. It is the courage that allowed you to become the first flying bird in this world." And take flight she would. During a surprise attack from the Abyss Order on the town of Mondstadt, Amber realized that day that she shouldn't wait for directions from someone else, but that she should be like those courageous birds that spread their wings and flew into the blue skies. And with that moment of realization, she fought off the attack and on a vision, a gift from the gods. After all we've gathered from Amber's upbringing, we can now determine why Amber is such a beloved character in the story and community at large. Her overwhelming optimism shines bright in the world of Teyvat, and her overwhelming optimism would shine its brightest in the Kali arc of the Genshin Impact manga. The character Kali, for those of you who don't know, is an original Genshin Impact character that only shows up in the manga and was the main focus of the manga's most recent arc. Just so y'all know, the Genshin Impact manga takes place before the game. Now let me explain this arc to y'all in full detail. Kali, a mysterious girl from an unknown country, ends up indirectly leading to the death of Fatui diplomats in an attempt to get into Mondstadt. This girl, who was clearly sick and distraught, was trying to get into Mondstadt in order to find books on how to cure her illness. She was now the target of the Knights of Favonius, who sent Amber in order to investigate the problem. Amber stumbles upon Kali in the night. Instead of treating her like a filthy outsider, which everybody in Mondstadt has done up until this point, Amber welcomes Kali and offers to help her find what she was looking for, despite Kali's obvious sickly appearance. This surprises the little girl, as no one has ever showed her this amount of kindness before, so her initial response was to reject Amber's advances and run away. But Amber won't let her be alone. Instead, she flies her across the city in order to get a nice view of it. This is something that has clearly never happened before to the tortured girl, and the whole time Kali is protesting the whole exchange. After this little experience, Kali trusts Amber enough to inform her about her tragic past. We find out that she is an exile that has experiments done to her by being injected with something called Archon reagent. This was done in an attempt to turn her into a living delusion. For those of you who don't know, a delusion is a fake vision that is created by the Fatui in order to mimic real visions. It turns out that she also wasn't the only child who was subjected to these experiments. Many exiled children were. Exiles are beings that are denied the gods' love and are destined to rot and die. They are usually excluded from towns and cities due to their misfortune and general reputation as subhumans. Even the great city of Mondstadt denied her entry and she had to force her way in. After knowing and hearing all of this come directly from Kali's mouth, Amber looks at her and states that she was never trying to kick her out of Mondstadt and that she is willing to risk herself in order to help her out. Over the course of this arc, we see Kali slowly open up to life as Amber takes her around Mondstadt and shows her the beauty of it all and how much she loves her home. Amber does this to Kali not only to help her with her trauma, but also to prove to her that the world of Mondstadt and Teyvat as a whole isn't as negative as a place as she thought it was. In one instance, they visit a circus where Kali has a PTSD attack over one of the clown's tricks. She freaks out as her traumatic past has conditioned her to view everybody around her as a potential target who's out to get her. It is right then when Amber reassures her that when she is by her side, and by extent the city of Mondstadt, she would never have to fear for her life as the city would always protect her and Amber would always stand by her side. Moved by these words, Kali finally gets the courage to go ask the librarian Lisa for her books on delusion spells in order to heal her illness. They end up being able to completely remove it, and it all culminates in the final chapter where a Fatui agent is sent to kill Kali in order to retrieve her Archon seal. This opponent is many times stronger than Amber, and she is bruised and battered, all for the sake of protecting Kali. Amber wouldn't allow him to get within 1 inch of the girl, and is fully willing to die to protect her. This entire time, Kali, a child who has only been told that she is weak, that no one will ever accept her, and that vengeance is the only way to life, that same girl asks Amber one simple question: why? And as a result, she gives one simple answer: I still haven't heard your reasons for why you don't deserve to be valued. I won't deny the unfair truth that people like us are weak, but even so, we are alive by our own strength alone, and the unwavering truth that we will never give up. was at this moment that I truly understood the character of Amber. Her personality had been completely fleshed out in this entire arc. See, the main theme to Amber's character is that of courage. The words that her grandfather left with her, that she lives by, are that, in order to fly, she had the courage to still be a part of the Outriders even after it long disbanded. She had the courage to move on after her grandfather disappeared mysteriously. She had the courage to help an innocent little girl in need after everything was telling her that she should have rejected her. And lastly, she has the courage to fight any foe many times for power. Having courage and optimism in the face of adversity is the main theme behind her character. It was this that allowed her to be the greatest flying champion of Mondstadt, and all of this has allowed me to contextualize how poetic her character truly is in the game of Genshin Impact. Yes, she's the weakest character in the game, and yes, she is the worst character to play with. However, I believe that this is precisely the fact of why she draws so many people to use her, even knowing just how bad she is in the game. It's because just like the character, people who actively use Amber must have a strong amount of courage to use such a weak character willingly and never giving up on making her work. It is this reason why I say that even though Amber is technically the weakest person to use in the game, she is by far the strongest when it comes to being a good character.